Mario curated an exhibition at the Architectural Association in London called The Future is a Journey to the Past. And this has been developed for the exhibition you see outside, which is basically charting the level of ecological awareness with the level of technical capability within the construction industry. And this is, I think, a fascinating thesis, because we know that all sorts of things can be achieved using construction and digital technology, but they're not necessarily very good things to achieve. So what Mario is doing is introducing a sort of ethical element into the decision-making process. And part of that is understanding how people have worked with the climate in the past. And the climate is a very strange thing because it has all sorts of small anomalies. So, for example, as Mario points out in his book, you can have a subtropical island off the coast of Ireland, which last time I looked was nowhere near the tropics. Or in the Iranian desert, you can have ice cream because, again, of very peculiar, very localized climatic conditions. And what these mean is that the possibility for human life can be extended, and human pleasure, and human interaction. And I think that's really the underlying theme of what Mario is going to talk about. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, if you have some time to watch the exhibition, also we please, if you have some notes, because we make a sort of a timeline. I'm sure we're missing something, so then any suggestion to add some reference or books or something that you think is interesting on the timeline will be very appreciated. So I was starting to presenting this, the journey, the future is a journey to the past, because I think the future is not something then in front of us, sometimes is on one side or maybe is in the back. So I think we need to look the future in many point of view. So I was just starting to make some of the value of our work, and I always try to remember me that we design building for the others, not for ourselves. We design building for the life. And possible we design to make a design for beauty. No? This is a little project we did in Tuscany. In a historical center, we designed a square, which is a cantilever in the landscape, and it become the new destination for people as a place for gathering. No? And also the question is arise in the last years about what is the role of an architect. No? Is only answer to question, or maybe help to make question to our client, exploring and the interpreters, researchers and storytellers, analysts and artisans. So we are also in the line of between the analogic and digital world in architecture. So how much we can be digital and at the same time artisan, because buildings are today, they're still made by hand. So, and also our work is made by hand. And so the question is, what happened when all the architects embrace this calling? How we can answer to all these new questions? And there are some value which I like to share with you. One is about the sustainability. Is one of the key discussion everywhere in the world today. About how we can make more sustainable architecture. And I like to change this world in creative with empathy, which I think is a better definition of what will be means sustainability. Is empathy is an attitude. Attitude in relation with people. We try to understand the others, but also is try to understand the place where you work. Get some information by data. Be empathic with the place where you work in. At the same time, creativity can not become extravaganza. If you're using empathy, then you need to combining your idea of creativity by also related to the place where you work. So I think this combination is what I'm feeling more comfortable about definition of sustainability. And also design sustainability for every angle is not only about performance, of course, it's about the way you design your building. I strongly believe then sustainability is not a technological issue. It's not about the performance of machine, but the way we design buildings. How we design building adapting to that climate to get the best relations with energy. Now, this is building built in Ghana, Africa. You can see from this picture taken on the 21st of June, and the building is completely under shade, which is mean you can use in transparent glass, and then you don't need air conditioning to cooling the overheating by the sun. That is very simple things, but sometimes we forgot to see what the angle of the sun in your place where you're working. You know what's the angle, which is the direction. All of these things can help us to design better building in terms of the result of performance. No? So I think it's really an architectural issue more than a technological issue. And also what the beauties mean. You know, beauty's concept is change in time. No? What was beautiful or beauty 20 years ago, today is change. You know, it's another concept. And I think what we're looking today for beauty is mean something also invisible. It's not only about aesthetic. No, it's about what does it mean, the buildings. No? What this kind of relation it was able to creating with the place, with people. No? This, I will show you later, is a building for the Agency for Environmental Protection. It's designed by 120 chimney, and creating this connection between daylighting and ventilation, what I'll show you later. And also lead the way with open up. So I think everyone, I'm sure here, they're all professionals, and you know how much our work can become contaminating by different knowledge. No? I think we need to be quite open to understand also other level of knowledge about communities, technologies, climate, ecology. So I think this is we need to be open to accept all this knowledge to make a better buildings. No? And for me, brave and honest adventures is mean, I think we need to be very honest in this stage of our life about sustainability. We are not yet a start. We're just in the beginning. So I'm a little bit not against, but I'm funny to talk about a zero impact building, which is not true. Because building, we need to design building and build for our life, but we can improve, make better buildings. But I think we need to also tell the truth, the stories about the impact of buildings. Building is made for human. No? But just to remind some of the discussion about sustainability, and that's why we make this timeline outside, because you can see the history from the past, very past, see how the architecture was changed, and then what's happened after the Industrial Revolutions, and what happened in the last few years. So this timeline is about starting point in 1992. Actually, the German passive house standard was in 1991. No? And every year, actually next week, the COP28 starts in Dubai. Every year was a report from United Nations called COP. No? And then every year there's a new regulation. So the road is very clear, the journey is very clear, the direction. No? And for us, the direction is, is the roadmap 2030 and 2050. No? And then there was many things happen, so regulation in the countries. Francis Pope, he writing an amazing books about our home, the planet. But he said something that nobody said before. There's a poverty in terms of financial poverty. There's a poverty in terms of food. The people don't access to food. But there's a building poverty. So there are many people living in a very poor building in terms of quality, and that's will be the people that will be suffer more in terms of the climate change, because buildings are really making, also in Europe, and not around the world, also in Europe. So we need to put the attention also for these kind of things. And then the objective 2030, reducing 45% emission. CO2 emission, and 2050, 85% of emission. It's a very ambitious plan. That's what I'm saying. We only start to make some change about materials, designs, and how can improve our cities. No? But one thing is important is to know that we are very concentrating in the performance of the buildings, the consumption of buildings. But if you see this diagram of a life of a building in 30 years, half of the emissions are related to the material, the construction. So we did a lot of work on performance. We can make building 7 kilowatts square meter per year. Then, 20 years ago it was 300, 400. But we need to make a lot of work on the material, construction material, the new generation of steel, concrete, steel. There's a lot of work on the recycling. So the effort now go really on the life cycle of material. And if you go back to the history, which is the major argument of today, I was writing this little booklet called The Future is a Journey to the Past. You can find it in the bookshop if you like it. And it's a 10 story about architecture, because I was thinking to make a trip for my 60-year-old birthday. Then the COVID, of course, canceled all these things. And I thought to make a trip from some place which I know already, from north of Ireland to China, and yet finally to China, through Asia, Africa. So there are 10 buildings which I find very interesting to study. For the very simple things, but how we made buildings before the Industrial Revolution with no energy. What happens before? Because we are now concentrating about performance, energy, machine, but how we did before. There's a story of building before the Industrial Revolution where we design building in a empathic way with the climate, because that's what the only energy available. And we connecting energy, buildings, shape, aesthetic, because that was the rule of architecture. So I'll only tell you 2 stories. One is Hiding or Invisible City. Then you remember this film, and Skywalker come back home and then find all the family dead. And this photo is taken in the desert of Tunisia, And George Lucas already, when he's writing this film, he said, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, so which means we already live in another galaxy, then back home in the planet, in the Earth, and then the most modern place in the planet was this house in Tunisia, where the Tunisian people, as the Chinese, they built their building underground for a very good reason, because, well, first the material, the rocks was easy to excavating, but because outside there will be 30, 40, 50 degrees, but inside temperature is constant, is between 17 and 20 degrees. But open a little courtyard for ventilation, then you create a condition to be not against the climate, but an answer to that climate. And Chinese, they make an amazing cities, what we call hiding city in Henan province. And that is the city, and it's so, and so beautiful. It's courtyard with, it's a common space, and then all the rooms all around, and there's a garden on the level 0. I thought we forgot the complexity and the way we did buildings. There was not only one way, there was so many ways adapting to the climate. And I'm fascinated by this because I think we lost a little bit this complexity. We built building everywhere the same around the world, but independent of the climate. And I like the idea, there was a story and knowledge. Why I'm interested in this, not to do again this, of course, but the way the people was thinking. They're thinking how they're dealing with their climate, with this material in that specific context, and give you an answer. And the most interesting things was, Marco Polo, the story is from Venice to China, and crossing all the Asia. And then when he went back to Venice, sailing to the South China Sea, Indian Ocean, and then arrived in Hormuz in Iran. And then he's go to Constantinople, the Istanbul, and he's saying in this book, then he went to the desert village, and the people offered to him an ice cream. That was the 13th century. How people can make ice in the desert. So this is it's a crazy stories, no? Because you need a lot of knowledge to do it. But there may be people in Persia, they take 300 years to understand, no? But then they build a wall, can be 100 meters long, no? And behind the wall is a shallow pool, and behind the pool is another wall. So you see the line, orange line, is the winter angle of the sun. So behind the wall, there's no solar gain during the day. Then in front of the wall, they make an excavation, they make a dome and a sort of a tank. So what happens then, they put water in the night, very shallow waters, and because the sky is minus 55 degrees, for the effect of the cold sky suck all the heating from the waters and freezing the water. No? And night after night, in this pool, the Persian people take a piece of ice, put it on the tank, and then in the summertime, the dome protects by the solar radiation by ventilating this place, and they make this called frozen full dash, which is still exists in Iran, and there was an ice cream with noodles and fruit. So I was shocked by the way they already have many principles of thermodynamic, no? The freezing from the sky, ventilation, the air speed, the aerodynamics aspect of the design. But that is the scale. You see the scale. It's huge. So I think there was very ambitious also in the way they made these things. And of course we do ice much more easy today. Of course, we're not going to do that again. But I'm fascinated by the people who was thinking then they can make ice by study cooling and then maybe design a wall and then I need to protect. So it's the process of thinking. I think we need to think again, because if we want to do zero impact building, you need to find again this empathy with climate. You can't do it without this kind of a thinking. You know? And that's why I'm fascinated in reading that. There's many stories, very beautiful in India, in China, in Saudi Arabia, in North of Africa. So you can read that in a little bit. In the booklet is a 10 story. I don't want to sell you the book, but if you get it, you can find many stories. Then also is another place where we can have inspiring us for this idea of sustainable buildings, and is the world of plants. Plants are in the planet from 450 million years. We, Homo sapiens, 300,000 years. We're able to make a lot of damage in this time, but anyway, that's our stories. The adaptation of plant to climate is 450 million. So what these two pictures have in common? Well, they don't move. They don't move. So they need to adapt to themselves. What they do are trees. The trees do beautiful things. Transforming CO2 emission in oxygen. We are not able to do it. Then is make fruit, make leaves, change when it's winter time, creating humus, then create humidity, and the roots are the intelligent part of the plants. Then Professor Mancuso, if you look in the internet, his video experiment showing the intelligence of plants, because it's a neurology for plants. So it believes that plants have another level of intelligence. And how we're building in the last decades, maybe now it's improving, but we are against the climate. We don't want to know what happened outside. We seal in the building, use a machine, And we don't know whether it's raining, sunny, it doesn't matter. Then foundation, I don't want to connecting with the earth, with temperature or nothing. So we design really building against the climate. So now the point is how much we can learn from plants to make our better buildings. No? And I think the plants can tell us so many stories of adapting to different climate. But it's a, I don't remember this. We did this project in Morocco by inspiring by this plan, then everybody knows, no? But this plan is a particularly stories, no? You know, this living in a very arid context, no? Which is mean the no water. The shape is a sphere, so half the plant is under shade during the day, it's not under sun all the time. And the leaves are triangular. So between the leaves is a shading part, which the temperature is different, which is mean ventilation between leaves, also when it's very hot. And then the top of the plant is white with a very thin spine, because that's the point where the sun is much more hot. So it's reflecting the light, which is not absorbing by the plant, and the spine on the leaves. No? Of course, they defend from animals because it's juicy, but because the spine take water from the air. So when temperature change, the little waters in the air is condensed in the top of the spine, and this drop of waters go inside of the plant. The question is, how this plant know? How they know? How they know they're adapting to themselves? So behind the shape, behind the way it's made, it is a strong connection with that climate. And this plant able to survive in a so difficult context. So we are very far away from that knowledge, very far away. So this is the challenge of the next 20 years, how we can design building with this kind of intelligence. So when we design this with a residential, as a campus for students, we say maybe this kind of a microclimate in buildings is very important. So we designed this kind of a shed horizontal around the buildings, which is creating a sort of a light and shadow, light and shadow. So all the facade is under shadow, but also is a microclimate between the small piece of terracotta shield around. No? So I think we don't do a cactus, but the cactus tell us a lot of things, how we can design our buildings. No? And of course, you can see this is a thermal picture. You see the difference between the red and the darkness. So that's temperature different between the external and between the leaves, which is mean that shape is made to survive in a very difficult context. So it's about the design of this plant. No? So and that's the courtyard using, recycling water is the only place we can plant in trees. No? So, and just to give you some example of this connection, we designed this building for the headquarters of a regional agency for prevention environmental energy, inspired by this city in Pakistan, which is a wind catcher city. You know? They catch the wind in the night by this kind of a kite, and the wind gets inside of a house, and keeping this cool air during the day by the thermal curve, it will be give back the cooling in 7 hours. So which is mean, during the day, there's maybe 50 degrees outside, but inside there will be maybe 4 or 5 degrees less, which is a lot of energy. It doesn't matter the numbers, it's the difference between the temperatures, it gives you the comfort. So we designed this building, is 120 chimney, which is improving first the daylighting, is an office and laboratory. At the same time, in the summertime, is increasing the ventilation inside the office by taking the cool air from the floor to exhaust the air from the hot. At the same time, in the winter time, we can, using the glass house effect, and using this heating by the sun inside of a building. That's, of course, not enough to make a zero energy building. But reducing 30% of cooling and 40% of heating is a huge impact on the size of a machine and the kilowatt you're consuming by only the shape of the buildings. No? So it's all wood construction, prefabricating, so very quick to build. And then we do daylight analysis. Of course, today is easy by digital program, but we did for many years by using artificial sky to analyze the quality of a day and the intensity of a light. No? And there's very sober, very simple office buildings. No? And that's the result. No? And then with the same principle, we are now almost finished a tower in Milan, which is complete now. I mean, there are another few months, but it's finished, which is a place in the city center, but is particularly the shape of the tower is facing south. And then the south face on the tower is a problem in the wintertime when the sun is low. They get inside of your tower, and then what you normally do, you close the windows and on the light. No? So we say that the south face of the tower is an atrium of 17th floor, empty, and we're using this empty space as a climate moderator. So reusing the heating from in the wintertime, and also ventilating and recuperate the heating in the summertime. Of course, that's not enough for make a free running buildings. But again, the shape of the building is suggesting this kind of strategies with the shape of the buildings. No? That's the atrium, but that's almost finished. And the top floor is a glass house, is a not conditioning place, and is like a very large lounge. We're now planting trees, and the photovoltaics is on the roof to shading in the buildings. So just give an example how much the design can be influenced by this kind of a relation, and also is a pure geometry, but is adapting to different conditions, because in the top was cut by urban regulation by 60 degrees, and so we stretch the tower and creating this sort of eyes. And the bottom part is a piazza, no? And the facade is changed shape, adapting to the public space. And this almost. And we have the last two projects, and then we have a chat with Jeremy. We just completed a museum in Milan. It's made by Etrurian collection of art. And the most interesting part of the museum, apart from the shape and the object, is the continents. The story of object producing by Etrurian artistic or artisan was to help the people in the journey to another life. This is the beginning of the religion. We are on the 10th century of civilization, between 10th century before Christ until the Roman Empire. And this collection is about the 4th and the 5th century before Christ. So the black vase, shiny black vase. But why they made that? Because they believe when you finish your last breath, you're dead, but you're not dead. You just start your journey in another life. And all the art of this period is made with this idea, no? I'm producing object to accompany people to another life, to join their family, to another journey. No? And that moment of the breath is the moment of artistic tension. No? And there are some amazing pieces. This is a 40 centimeter warrior in bronze. And these are the tomb of Cerveteri. That's the only architectural remain for that time. So we designed this an underground building, museum. The building has an existing one, and is underground of this existing building. You can see the dome coming out of the garden, showing that something happened underground. And underground is the level. No, you go down from a little stairs to a little bit darkness. No, because when you go inside, is no time, the space is all in stones, and you can see the picture. And then you discover this culture of Etrurian by stories, space and object, and then you go up on the first floor is contemporary art. So it's a journey to show the art is a fluid in the story of humanity. Can be an object made 2,050 years ago, and you can see a Picasso, which is an object can be done maybe 1950, and is connecting with this history. So the story of art is a fluid of humanity, and I think this museum tells the stories. And it's divided in different sections about the war, about the life, about they believe in some God, and then is the museum. It is all made of one stone, limestone, called Pietra Serena. There are 29,000 pieces of this stone around you, and then make the feeling of the space. You need to feeling your underground. The sound inside is different. It's a little echo, because when you walk in underground, it's a different feeling, and the material feeling is different. And there's a gap between the stone of 3 millimeters, so the air comes from the floor, from that gap, a light gap, and the air is be taken from the stone. So there's no equipment, no technology, nothing you can visit, because you're concentrating in the experience of the space and the object. That's it. And I design every single species, every exhibitions. And I think it's a little short video, 1 minute. And also you can see in this picture, this is a piece of 2,000 years ago, but then you can see on your side is a modern piece of art of Medusa, let me see, the head of the snake, made by Arturo Martini in the 1960s. So, and also if you don't know the story, you can see artists, there was influence from the past, and it's a combination of this fluid artistic impression. It's a very short video of just a minute. And the last project, which is connecting all the stories I told you, is this house with 3D printing global habitat. So we built a house by using 3D printing, but using earth, not cement. So it was the first time they were using this material. And I think the combination was to using the latest technology with the oldest material in the planet you can find everywhere. But it is, again, is about the way you design this house on that latitude. And also because it's made by earth. That life of this building, it can finish and back from where they come from. So it is no pollution, it's back to their natures, and nature is always working to give it back. But the house is, the shape of the house is made by also the material. You're printing wet house. Wet earth is not solid, it's wet. So the curve is the maximum curve before the shape collapsing. And inspiring by the cactus, also this little facade, collecting also the waters. And then inside, you can get the feeling it was printing. But I think the most interesting thing is the feeling you had when you get inside. I think the body recognizes what is a concrete, is a wood, or is the earth. is a reaction, no? And I think for me, at least for me, the experience of the earth was very, very emotional. And that is the video to showing how was the printing. You can see the thickness of the wall, no, is for ventilated, but also because there's no structure, it's made by mud, no, and it's the way is the structure of this of the walls. And you know, wasp made some nest by using terracotta, no? And just to finish as a news, and we just starting the design of the Italian pavilion in Osaka Expo 2025, which is a great experience for us. And is I'm not going to show it all, but just to tell you something, I try to see, being the Expo is a very pop event. You know, there's 30 million people visiting Expo, and then maybe in the pavilion there will be 3 million people visiting. What kind of a message we can give to them, no? And I thought to say the DNA of Italian is this kind of architecture, like a portico, no? Is an hangar, is a very large space. And then what you can see is a theater, because theater is the first virtual reality built in centuries. It's the only place that you can go and travel in another time, another space, no? So we just make these kind of images of the theater is representing the culture of our country, but in the same time is the idea of the ideal city, no? I think one of the interesting stories is we all try to design a city of the future, no? We call ideal city, no? And from the 15th century there was a representation of the first time after medieval, no, this picture of what will be the city of future. It was only architecture, there was no human, no nature, nothing, no? And also the discovery of the geometry, you know. And what will be we want to tell the stories about every century, they investigating what will be the city of tomorrow. No? I think it's one of the major discussions of today, you know. And then it will be a trip, a sort of a journey from the past again, to showing what will be our idea of our time, how we can imagine the city of tomorrow. That will be the story from the foundation of Italian cities to the future cities. And gardens is a part of the story of a landscape, you know? So, and then the roof is a garden, Italian garden with a new interpretation, because the Osaka Expo, they have built a ring, a promenade at 12 meters high, so you can see pavilion also from the top of this promenade. So, and so we just start to build in the start to 3 weeks in January, and then we'll be open in April 25. Thank you very much.